More new things. Just in those 3 steps, we have to get them behind the wheel, and we're given 2 presentations, 2 formal presentations, and most of us haven't done it that way before. You and I think everybody was taught to give a presentation and take a demonstration. We just did our demonstration, and during the demonstration we gave 2 presentations, one to the primary, one to the secondary. Start back at the beginning of this. The question is, well, how do you get people on a demo? How do you?
Well, actually, there's 3 sales I got to make here. Number 1, I got to close the customer on a demo. Number 2, I got to close the customer that I need to go with them. And then number 3, I got to close the customer on the fact that I need to drive first. Okay. So why do I need to drive first? Well, so I can do what a demo is all about: display, operate, and show how the product works. It's hard to do that from the passenger seat. Now, how do you do this? Well, knowing 99% of all customers say they must drive before they buy, and you've done a good job at building rapport and your wander around, you just got to kind of take a little bit of an assumptive approach on this. I mean, you just grab the keys and say, Bob, Betty, jump in. You guys are going to love the way this truck drives. And as you're saying that, you actually want to get in the driver's seat, put the keys in the ignition, buckle your seatbelt, and put your hands on the steering wheel. I mean, what's all my body language saying to the customer? Yeah, it says we're going on a demo. Now, could a customer say, well, I really don't have a lot of time? Could a customer maybe have already driven it down the street? Tim, how are they going to handle those type of objections if they get that at that point?
If customer says they don't have enough time?
Yeah.
Some of it's Playhouse 90. Could it be real?
Yeah.
Might be smoke.
Yeah.
What am I supposed to assume it is, real or smoke?
Your smoke.
That's right.
Yeah.
So just Playhouse 90. They say I don't have enough time.
Yeah.
Just look at your watch. You know, I don't have a lot of time either. Do you want to go on the long route or the short route?
Probably the shorter route.
If they say short route, what do they disagree to do? Go on a demo.
Yeah.
What do you got to lose?
Yeah.
No guts, no glory. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
I'm
kind of
with
it.
you.
What if they say I've already driven one?
Oh, well, I hear that a lot.
So you're going to leave your paycheck up to the guy down the street?
Hopefully not.
So what would you say? Guy said, I already driven one. I just want to know price.
I'm just going to say, oh, Bob, well, that kind of concerns me. I mean, the truck typically sells itself. Let me at least point out a few things they may have left out. Now, come on, guys, jump in. You're going to love the way this truck drives. Hands back on the steering wheel, eyes forward, and guess what we're ready to do? Hey, if they like you, you got the rapport. They're not going to leave you hanging. 99% want to drive before they buy anyways. You know what? They're a little nervous about spending money even though they're getting ready to spend it. They're afraid if they drive it, they might like it, and if they like it, they might do what? Isn't that the whole point? Hey, bottom line, if you can't close them on a demo, you can't close them, period.
Yeah, but I'm doing the yeah, but stuff for these guys that are watching. Yeah, but you just said get them behind the wheel. They ask about price. Before I drive it, I want to know what it's going to run me. Again, that's another course. It's called bypassing.
Yeah.
But you just have to work around that. What's it going to run me? We'll check with my manager, and I'll have all the figures. We'll get everything together for you as soon as he's free. Go ahead and jump in. I want to show you something real quick.
Yeah.
The demo has to just be assumptive.
Seamless.
If I've done seamless is the right word. If I've done a good job out on the lot, it's a piece of cake. It's just the next thing we do. We've controlled this wander around. It wasn't an uncontrolled wander around where you're trying to, Betty, could you come back over here? And they're drifting. We've controlled it up to this point. It's a non-event. It's one of those things that just naturally happens. You say, go ahead and jump in. I want to show you something. Well, if I'm going to my trade, we're not doing anything. Well, gosh, I wouldn't expect you to. We'll have my manager take a look at it. As soon as we get back, he'll be free. And it just continues and moves forward.
2 things on a demo. It's number 1, you got to remember this. Customers are out of their comfort zone when they come and buy a car. I don't care. They got 20 reports. They've got a book. They have all the information. They're still out of their comfort zone. They buy cars every 2, 3, 4, 5 years. They may be a little defensive. That article they read online may have told them to say, I don't want to drive it first. I want to know your best price. They're out of their comfort zone. Accept that. Know that going into it. And the other thing, you got to have 100% assumptive demeanor. You have to have the complete attitude of course you're going to go on a demo. Everybody goes on a demo. It was, I spent years in F&I, and it was, of course you're going to buy a service contract. It'd be crazy not to buy a service contract. I mean, you guys aren't crazy, are you? I mean, that's kind of the mindset you got to have. And when you believe that, you're just going to get people behind the wheel. It's the feel of the wheel, closes the deal, or whatever that old saying is.
If you're afraid, it's not going to. And the only reason you'd be afraid is because you didn't have any control. The only reason you didn't have any control is because you didn't follow the steps. And the reason you didn't follow the steps is because you didn't practice.
And if you're afraid, what do you got to do?
Call 911.
Or get a dog.
Yeah.
One of the two.
You know, one question that I hear a lot in class is, where does the presentation fit in? Okay, because a lot of you, and you're just taught exactly like me, you know, customer comes on the lot, you make a great first impression, greet, build rapport, investigate, put them on the right car, show them the outside, then the inside, then the demo, okay? And I'm with you on that, and that could sell you a few cars. We're just trying to get you to the next level. There's tremendous benefits of doing your presentation off the lot. One, you're gonna have no distractions whatsoever. Two, there's not gonna be any better looking car. Three, you're going to be in total control where 80% of the decision to buy is made. Now, we're going to talk about the presentation in a minute, but I know some of you guys out there are going, wait a minute, where does the presentation fit in?
Okay, what about the that formal 6-7 point walk around that we've always heard we're supposed to do? When you talked about Betty trading drivers first, you covered Betty's hot buttons only, but that's not a 7-point walk around. Betty cared about the room for the soccer kids. She wanted the entertainment system. She wanted a comfortable seat or whatever else you talked about. So that doesn't lend itself to a full 7-point walk around. It sounds like you just want to cover the things most important with Betty.
I need to get both people on board. You know, that's a big change in the basics, though. From what we used to teach years ago and what we teach now, we've evolved it over the last few years. It's that we always taught guys, do the walk around on the lot, spend 45 minutes on the lot, pull the car out of the road, keep them both involved, do a customized walk around for two people at the same time. Sounds great, looks good in the book, but in real life, we found it's hard to keep control of two people at the same time, customize a presentation at the same time for two people. You got intercoms going off, lot guys moving, having a lot party, moving the cars around. It's get the customer off the lot as soon as you can. Build that rapport, get them in the car, off the lot, so you can make the car the star, and focus on Betty. Get Betty excited. Look, if Betty's the secondary driver, what's the benefit of doing a walk around for Betty? What's the benefit?
Well, she's going to be using it some of the times too, and you got to get her sold on the car. Not to mention, 90% of the decision is completely influenced by the woman in the group. So even though it's Bob's truck, you better get Betty excited as well. You know, in the past, maybe Bob would drive his car and Betty would drive her car, but it seems like nowadays, I don't know how your family's working. My wife drives my car and I drive her car. So in reality, both of us are involved in the decisions. So the advantages of doing these targeted walkarounds is you're spending a little time with each individual customer and taking the features that they're interested in and turning those into advantages and benefits for each one of them.
In that formal featured advantage benefit presentation on those things she cares about.
Yeah.
Why do you have the, again, tell us again why we have Betty drive first in this case, secondary driver?
Always. When you come back, when you're coming back to the dealership after you're going the demo route, you want the primary driver in the driver's seat. If you do not, and the secondary driver's driving that car back on the lot, and you do the closing sequence, which is on some other chapters, but as soon as you say, sounds like find a perfect car, park it in the sold line, if the secondary driver's driving, they're going to look at the primary driver and say, well, what do you think? You want to buy it? And it is a momentum killer. All that momentum you created with the landmark summary, with the sold line close, you lost it because you didn't do the right order. Secondary driver first, primary driver second. And the other thing I wanted to touch on real quick on the presentation, when you focus on the secondary driver and the primary driver, make sure you do a customized presentation based on each one of their hot buttons, their family, how they're going to use it every day. Remember I said in some other chapters that you got to make sure you do customized presentation and not product presentation. I think too often customers get product presentations, not really customized, how the kids are going to love the rear entertainment system, or the backup camera is going to be great for launching the boat. We do product presentations, and it really doesn't raise the value. It just kind of raises the cost.
You're still talking about doing a product presentation, but you're talking about doing it on things that they specifically care about. We're still going to explain the DVD, the backup camera, the entertainment system, and all those things. One other thing that we need to remind everybody, this is a process, and different people have tried to speed up the process. I remember in the car business of the past, one of the manufacturers wanted to get this down to a 1-hour deal. You walk on the lot, you drive off the lot in an hour. That ain't never going to happen because you can't speed up the buying process. I have to like you so I feel comfortable, so that I actually listen in these presentations and buy into what you're saying, so that I can believe you and end up hopefully buying the vehicle. We always talk about in these basics and in selling, speed kills. You do not want to go fast. It doesn't matter what difference does it make if you only can give 2 good presentations, demonstrations a day. You'd sell probably 2 cars or 3 cars every 2 days if you only talk to 2 a day. But if you go fast, you're going to skip some of these steps, you're going to leave out some information, they're going to feel rushed, they're already nervous. and Tim said it a minute ago too, they're excited about getting a car. It's the most fun thing we get to do, but they're still nervous about driving it. Yeah, they'd like to drive it, but the easier thing is, yeah, you know, why don't we come back later? And then they get the guts and go down the street and walk up to the next guy they don't know and say, I'd like to drive that car. It's just people. You just need to understand that and learn to deal with them. But we need to slow this process down. When you've closed the sale and you get inside and start negotiating, that's where slow kills. So speed kills out here. It's not about how long it takes. Do your job, whether it's an hour or 9 hours. Do your job out here. And when you get inside, you need that consistent process that we talk about in the negotiation class. So again, this wander round's critical, sets the stage. Presentation, demonstration, critical because it sets us up for the closing section. Anything else?
You know, two things, and I'm sure Tim covered it in his course, but when the customer's driving, kind of be quiet. Let this vehicle sell itself, okay? Yeah. And also, one thing that Joe mentioned, that when you're doing the walk around to the primary driver, that's where you're doing your more picture perfect factory walk around. That's when you're selling the sizzle and not the steak, and that's where you're really taking the features that customer's interested in and turning those into advantages and benefits.
And I don't necessarily mean this, but pull out your smartphone, and while they're driving, instead of talking to them and boring them to death, let them think about themselves driving and using the vehicle. Pull out your smartphone and go through the closing sequence that we're going to cover next so that you're ready.
Well, I think what happens a lot of times, though, is a lot of times as salespeople, we get nervous chatter. And when we're sitting in the back seat and the customers are there, we just have nervous chatter. We want to we got to fill that airtime. We want to keep talking. And I think we talk through the deal. It's just like I think we oversell our product with the technology on a car instead of right selling our product. We oversell by just nervous chatter. It drives you crazy sometimes.
What's that saying? Sell the sizzle, not the steak.
Yeah.
And you got to do the same thing. Just step by step by step. This is the setup for the close. So let's talk about closing. We'll come back.